Oh, all right. We are live with Passive Prospecting. And today we're going to be discussing thumbnails. So we're going to get into that here in just a minute. Let's see here. I'm going to bring up my trusty sidekick and co-host, Chrissy. Oh, when I zoom in, it really makes your head look big.
Yes, it does. I'm trying to account for the very dark outside today, too. For some reason on StreamYard, I'm like in this dark cave compared to on Zoom.
Do you have a window? Do you have a window in front of you?
I do, but it's like pouring rain outside right now. So it's super dark. It's not really helping me. Usually I have the natural light to help me too, but.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I've got my iced Americano, so I'm ready to roll. And we're going to get rocking and rolling on here. So we're going to give several, we already see several of you out there. So this is your opportunity to ask some questions as we've discussed before. What's that? What did I miss?
Yeah, Tom was just saying, send us the rain. It's 106 today. And I'm like, I wish I could. I would love 106 degrees. That's my kind of weather.
Yeah, this it's hot here in Dallas too. Nice and toasty. It just wraps you up like a nice warm blanket when you walk outside.
See, that's my kind of weather. I can deal with 100-degree weather any day.
Yeah, that's great. I might have to see if I can get to the lagoon later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to log in. Let me see if I can log in with to Canva. I haven't been in here in a while. Hopefully my password works. It does. Yay. All right, cool. All right, so today we're talking about thumbnails, and we're going to get into designing, creating thumbnails, how to make good ones, or above average good ones, we could say as well too. Mm-hmm. But we'll cover that, and I'll show you how I make a thumbnail, which is entry level, basic, and then I guess Chrissy, can you show some stuff?
Hey, I could try. It's on Photoshop, but I can definitely try.
Yeah, I think we do that. I'm going to show them how to do basic on Canva, and then if you want to pull up Photoshop, share your screen, maybe we could go. Mm-hmm. We could go there. So let's see. Who we got here. Hello, Arizona Real Estate. Oh, I like that name. That's a good one. Hello, Arizona Real Estate. Nice. Hello, you too. Hello. Yep. Tom says, send us the rain. 106 today. Yep. And we got living in Houston. Hello, how are you? And living on Hawaii Island. What's up? What better thing could you ask for than having a video or a channel on Hawaii, right? So
maybe not when there's a hurricane. That I don't envy.
Is there a hurricane heading towards Hawaii?
I guess that's what he's saying, is that they had a hurricane there last night.
Oh, I didn't even get to his comment yet. Made it through the You're like, okay, I just yeah. So okay, what's up Tom? Let's see, 30 days in a row. Yeah, 117 Arizona. Yeah, 117.
Woo, that is hot. Dry heat too. I'm sure you guys are burning.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, what's up? Orange Beach. Found out we're going to be in Plano August 2 through 5. According to Michael Reese, we are going to be so busy it will be hard for us to meet up. Oh, interesting. Well, that's funny. You'll have to DM me. Let me know what you're doing with Michael. What's he up to? Maybe I can get in on that event too. Let me see. August 2nd through 5th. Okay. I leave the next week after that. I will be going to be on Ryan Pineda's podcast, which is pretty awesome. Then speaking at Inman 3 times, which is pretty awesome. And then going to be on Sean Kelly's podcast the day after. So Ryan Pineda's on Monday, Inman Tuesday and Wednesday, Sean Kelly, which he's a big deal, on Thursday. And yep, who knows? Maybe I'll just stay the weekend in Vegas. The thing is, I've been to Vegas 100 times now. I've never just stayed and just like go to some shows, and I think that's something that I got to do, just go and check out some shows. All right, so let's get into, we'll come back to that. I'm going to share a screen. And let's get rocking on some thumbnails. So let's see here. Let me see. So the cool thing about Canva, you come up here, it says create design. You can just put in thumbnail, first of all, and it's going to pull up YouTube thumbnail. That's the really cool thing about Chrissy, can you see my Canvas screen?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, cool. All right, so you can do that. I guess I can pull that up to the side so I can make sure let me get rid of that comment. Didn't realize that was hiding up the screen there as well. So you can come on here, YouTube thumbnail. It's already going to be formatted to everything you need. Let's see. Excuse me, elements, uploads. Yeah.
Oh, it looks like we lost your screen.
Oh,
we're seeing like your project list.
Okay. Okay, I got you. It actually popped up.
I think you chose probably just the one screen to share.
Yeah. Why is it saying slides now? Extra camera, share screen. Oh, there we go. Oh, there it is. Okay. Boom. All right, there we go.
There we go.
So you can see we already have some houses uploaded in here. We have, looks like we were giving away some certificates. We've got channel. Well, we got channel stuff in here. Let's see, houses, logos. So on the upload side, you can have a lot of this stuff in here. Oh, you got, yep, that's me with the removed. Is that background removed? Not really. Nope, because it's a different shade of white. But let's see, I'll just use this one. This isn't one I would use for a thumbnail for real estate, but I would use it on passive prospecting. But I will wait to come back to that because let's just say let's pick a house. If I'm going to pick a house, come up here. This is real simple. You know, if you get a house in there and you want to do something like this, simply just size it up. This one's going to be a little, okay, that's pretty good. So what I like to do is when I was making thumbnails, I haven't made thumbnails in quite some time because thankfully the team handles that right now. Simply come on here. If I want to do a picture of this house, which is nice because the garage is on the right side, and that's going to be a good spot to place myself if I want to, or something like that. So I want to maximize this as much as possible. So I might pull, I don't want to cut off like the bottom element right here. And I'm going to pull the edge of the roof right over to here. So that's the first thing. Second of all, once I click on that, I can go to edit photo, adjust, right? Okay, it's going to pull up all these little light adjustments. So I just do something pretty simple, which is you have saturation and you have brightness on here. So usually I'll just kind of play with a little bit of these. It looks like none of those go the way I like. So let me just leave that leave that as is. Saturation. This is usually the one I like. You see, as I pull that over, look how much that saturates that photo. Actually, that's a pretty big difference then from right there. Kind of like regular sky. Now we got more of an enhanced sky. If I go the other way, it's going to black and white it out, which we don't want that. So we're going to saturate that a little bit. Now I can pull in maybe sharpness a little bit. I could just, oh, look, that really makes that brick stand out. You're probably not seeing it on the screen, but what I'm seeing on the thumbnail, it may look a little distorted on what you're seeing on YouTube. But from my perspective, it looks like it's really drawing that brick out. So you could just play with some of these controls. I'll keep it a little simple. Let's see, clarity. Ooh, clarity. That looks a little nice too. Anything I can do just to kind of enhance, that kind of enhances the shingles a little bit. I mean, you don't want to get too much, but anyways, just play with a couple of these controls. That's really it. Maybe we go back to brightness. Yeah, brightness I'll just leave in the middle. Contrast, maybe contrast. Yeah, I'll leave that in the middle too, but that's pretty much it. Something that simple, just to make that pop just a little bit more. Then if I want to go to uploads, then I can go, if I want to use this picture of myself, I can do that. But I'm also going to need to edit photo, and I'm going to need to do background remover. So I simply click on that. Very simple, boom, and the background's gone. Now, I pull that up, and if I want to size this up, oh, I'm missing a little bit. I need to pull that. Okay, there we go. Now, if I want to size myself up, now this makes me feel like I'm really big, but that's pretty necessary for a thumbnail. So if I want to do something like that, I'm going to put almost my ear over here, over to the far right side. I mean, I try to just maximize as much space as possible and get the top of my head almost to the top over there. And then I remember that right here is the timer box, which is, I'd have to use a different color, but you can see kind of like right there, the timer box. So that's not going to cover up anything insignificant. So if I leave that, I'm like, okay, I just click off to the side and there I am. I'm nice and big. Now, if you want to get even a little bit more fancy, I can come down to, is it under adjust? Let's see, where did they move the glow?
I think it's technically under shadow. Yeah, when you go into effects, I think it's under shadow. Yeah.
So let's click. Oh, there's the glow. Yep, there you go. Okay, so they changed that up. So now
you have to change the color too.
Yeah, if I want to add that nice little white line around me, right? So I can choose white. Right now, it's like a glow, but if I want to change it to a thick line, oh, I don't know why that's changing the size of me. Size.
That is one thing to keep in mind is sometimes Canva, the reason I like Photoshop better is sometimes Canva is glitchy. That's one of those examples of a glitch.
Yeah, that's not supposed to happen.
No, that's a glitch for sure.
Well, there it's thickening up, so I guess it is making me a little bit bigger. But blur amount, whenever I do the blur amount to the minimum, it makes that more of a solid white line. Oh, what happened there? See, now we're just proving the point of why this is so difficult, right? So yeah. Let me see. Well, there should be a little. Where's my restore? It's been a while since I've done this. Let me see. They've definitely changed some things up.
Do Control Z. I think that'll take it back for you.
Control Z. Nope. Oh, here's my back button. There it is. All right. Okay, so there's my back button up here. We'll just do that. All right, so now we'll go back, edit, shadows, blur amount. Have no idea why that. Where'd it go now? Now it just disappeared.
I'm telling you, sometimes Canva can be helpful, if you're just trying to get something done really quickly, but it does glitch from time to time. So don't feel crazy if it happens. Sometimes you have to actually completely start over.
Yeah.
To get it to not do that. So.
Yeah, it's free, right?
So, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, anyway,
you get what you pay for.
You know what? But I would say it's a good point to where if something happens, you have the choice. Okay, I could either look how quickly I could delete this. I could delete that, pull this back up. I could start over if I wanted to, or you could just move on. I mean, really, that's the thing you could do as well.
Yeah.
And let's see, we'll just give this one more try. We'll do the background remover. We'll do the shadow. We'll add the glow. We'll do the blur amount. We'll do the white. There it goes. Size. Now it's transparent instead of white. Why is that transparent? I didn't pick white apparently. Yeah, now it's like transparent. So interesting. All right. Well, it is what it is. So I would just leave it. Not a big deal. If I want to make myself a little bit bigger, that's okay. Can do that. It's still going to size me up a little bit there. And that's it. Now, now there went the glow. There it is. See, now it all right. Well, definitely a little glitchy. I still have a nice little glow. Anyways, glow's not really a big deal. Now I can go to text, add a text box. Bring that up and Who knows? We could say best, let's just say best deal. Or we could say cheap houses. Who knows? Anyways, we can do that. We can bold. I always like to bold. We can change different font styles, so you can just kind of play around with that as well. Drag it out. Let's see. What's one I usually? Yeah, Barlow maybe. Is that what I typically like? Barlow. We'll just see that. All right, so now I'm going to highlight that, and I'm just going to increase. And if you want to speed this up, you can just scroll down, try something like that, drag it out. All right, bring it up. Do we want to change the color? That's a little bit too blendy unless we add effects, and we want to add shadow, and we want to make shadow black, and we want to do and we want to go offset, so less offset, or you can do more offset. That gives it more of a 3D feel. And blur, we don't let's see, we don't want any blur. Transparency, that's what was missing on the glow factor, was the transparency. That's what it was. So if we do less transparent, it's going to make that darker behind there. I like offset not so much. So if you want to clean that up, you see how that black just gives it a little more depth behind it. And boom, there you go. All right. All right. So that took, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe. But again, some things you could experience. Another one we like to use is, you could say this one's been under 300K. Oops. That one's been a popular thumbnail, under 300K. A nice picture of a house, something like that. They're like, oh, okay, that's under 300K. That's pretty simple. We've been testing around. We mentioned yellow. You could, that kind of actually stands out just a little bit more on that sky. So maybe yellow you could add in there. So you just kind of play around with it. But otherwise, even with the troubles I just had there, which happens, again, I'm not a design expert, but that shows you still within 10 minutes, I could make that design. Now, this was something I had some fun with in the beginning, but exactly not the best use of my time. And if you get frustrated easily, especially whenever it comes to designing things, then maybe thumbnails is not for you. But otherwise, that's a pretty simple method to do that. It doesn't take a lot of design, because you can simply put the picture in there, change the text, put the font you want, add the colors, size it up, add the picture of you, and you're good to go. So that, I would say, would be the easy part of making a thumbnail. That's the amateur version right there. Amateur. And that's what I got to say about that.
Well, do you want me to show how to do it on Photoshop?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, let me go over here to sharing my screen here. Let's see if it will let me do probably my entire screen here. Okay, so let me hide that really quick. So this was one that we did recently around Salina. And so this is the beginning photo. And so this is a very common question that we get in the design side, is like, what happens if I'm out on a cloudy day and this is what I have to work with? That's kind of a dull thumbnail to work with, right? With the skyline not being blue. It was a cloudy day. Well, we turned it into this.
Oh, nice.
So all you have to do for something like this is you just need to remove the sky, and basically you go and you get a stock photo and you put this underneath that. So this is layered in Photoshop. And I would say I've worked with Canva, I've worked with Photoshop, and maybe I'm biased because I've spent a lot of time in Photoshop, but I just think it's a lot easier to create really good contrasted thumbnails in Photoshop. So if you want to kind of dive into the program, this is the way that I would do it. So you'll also notice that Levi's a little bit bigger here as well, because I wanted him to take up a little bit more space. I wanted to give some depth and some layers to the thumbnail itself. And that really does a lot to draw the eye in as well. The extra layering and texture that you can give to a thumbnail does a lot for it. So first of all, what we did is we took this back layer. I go in here with the lasso or the selection tool. Where's that one? I keep moving around all of the quick selection tool is what I usually use for this. And I'll just grab him, and it can be rough. I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect at the very beginning. You can clean up the edges later. Basically, you just copy that, and then you can move him around and he can kind of change. And then we'll just basically use the clone tool to make this back layer fill in the way that it's supposed to. So basically you can make yourself bigger or smaller. So I would say, a lot of times what we're finding with these thumbnails is that if you can find action shots from within the vlog, it typically does better than just doing, for when you're out on the vlogs, that is, it's going to do a little bit better for click-through rates and things like that than doing one of the posed shots and putting it next to a house or something like that. So these tend to do pretty well. So I would try to find a clear action shot of yourself. So actually, I would even say, before I get into too much of like the actual design, there's a bunch of C's that I kind of like to listen or look for when I'm doing a thumbnail. The first one is it crisp? Is everything around you in this picture not pixelated, basically? And so even when I blow Levi up, it's like his hands aren't blurred, right? His face isn't blurred. He's not his eyes aren't like, going to the back of his head. So try to find a clear shot of yourself. And then also, is your background and what you're trying to highlight, is that clear and unpixelated? The next thing that you want to look for is contrast. And so right here, we don't have a whole lot of contrast. And so we're going to create contrast, right? This has a ton of contrast between the words, the actual sky, all of the brick and all of that stuff. It kind of gives a picture of what downtown Salina looks like, right? So there's some good contrast there. And then, is your messaging clear? Is it really easy to tell, like, what is the text telling you about this area? Does it make it you want to be very, very careful about the type of text that you use here. You want to make it really clear what people are going to get from the video. So, doing too much text or something that's kind of vague, there is some strategy to using something that just like makes people curious, but being vague is not the same as making somebody curious or leading somebody in. So just kind of be careful about what type of text you're using and how much of it you're using. And then of course, concise is my fourth C that I used. 3 to 4 words max on a thumbnail is what we typically do. I mean, there's the occasional video that we've had maybe a little bit more text than that, but it's usually something like maybe a word is coming out of a thought bubble or a text bubble or something like that. It's part of the design and not. Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Can you take over? I got to take this call real quick.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I can't see my other screen. So, but yeah, so I would look for those things. So again, those is it clear? Is there contrast? Is it concise? And is it crisp? Those are the 4 things that I look for in a thumbnail. So going back to this right here, basically I just take him and I kind of set him aside as his own layer. And then of course I'm going to clean this up in a little bit. You can use some of the AI tools too. I've used some of the AI tools and sometimes they're great. And sometimes they still leave pieces or they take out buttons or something like that. So I'm still kind of old school. I'll still kind of do it by hand here. But that grab tool is usually pretty good. And then you can go back here and actually create a whole other layer out of the sky too. So go back to your original layer here. You're going to kind of grab all of that. Now, again, he's in the background, so it doesn't really matter if we're going to delete part of him because we'll just go ahead and clone that. So I try to keep a little bit of that tree still there. And we can feather that a little bit, whether you decide to do that with the feather tool or manually. But just as long as you kind of get the gist of it. Then we're going to copy and paste that. And now the sky has become its own layer. So you can either layer it on top of that, or you can actually go in and you can select that layer. And you can actually delete the entire background too. Oops, and I did that wrong. So got to unlock the layer first. So now if I were to do that, now you've got this whole backspace and you can start going in and you'll see that's exactly what I did here. I just added the sky right here behind that layer and then it fills it all in. And then of course I kind of feathered it and everything right here. So it makes it, and so the tree looks a little bit more real. And then of course you've got your text that kind of goes over the spots that you can't really fix up. So that's kind of a general idea of how to kind of add some extra contrast into it. And then of course I went in here and this section right here, we'll put him on top of that. This section right here, this background image, you can go in here into image, hue, saturation, and you can go in and play with some of the saturation as well. So you'll notice that's exactly what I did in the other one. You can even change the hue a little bit. Like if you find that maybe when you were capturing it, it came out a little bit yellow, or it's over, you know, it was a little bit over blued, or you know, you can kind of mess around with it here and see, even adding a little bit on this hue spectrum, I even enhance the colors a little bit more. So you just want to enhance your background. And then if you have any leftovers here, then of course you can go in and do the clone tool in the background to eliminate whatever's left of, you know, your background image if you decide to go with this guy. So you just go to the clone tool here, and let's see, I'll just put some sky behind him because honestly, at the end of the day, that's probably what it's going to end up being. So anyway, I'm not going to go into all of that, but basically you would just clone it. You would hide yourself in the background. It makes you look bigger. And then you can add your sky there. And then as far as the text goes, it's really easy to add like a stroke. And what we have here is a stroke. And we have a drop shadow as well, because, you know, and we have 3 different colors going on here. The green goes really well against that blue. So I would not use like a blue on blue. Like this here would not work well here, but it works well down here because it's kind of a lighter color. So that's why we decided to use that. And with 3 different colors, it really does just especially better. That's going to stand out really, really well for people when they're looking from the YouTube side. So I added that. So all you have to do to add that stroke here is you're going to go into the text layer right here. You're going to right click it, go to blending options. And then you can add a stroke here. You can add, this is how thick it's going to be. And then you can choose your color. And then you can also add a drop shadow here, and you can change like the opacity, like how dark it is, how far away from it is. All of your angles are going to have to be the same, though. That is one thing you're going to notice. Like on Canva, you can change, you know, which angle it's going to come from on each individual item, versus on Photoshop, it wants to keep the light source universal. And so unless you were to like rasterize layer or something like that, it's going to end up, you know, showing up from the same angle, which actually is good because that actually makes it easier to look at for most people. So, but yeah, I added a drop shadow to him as well to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of depth to the picture. And then of course, you know, I just changed up the stroke style. Even the opacity is a little bit different down here than it is up here, just to give it a little bit of extra contrast. But those are just some little tips and tricks that I usually use. The one thing that I would keep in mind when you're doing any type of thumbnail, no matter where you do it, is just make sure it's not confusing, because that's one thing that will throw people off. If it's confusing at all, if it's not very clear on the messaging, it's not going to matter how much fun stuff you add to it, whether you add emojis or if you add lightning and fire like you saw in the thumbnail for this event. Doesn't matter how much of that you add. If you make it very confusing and nobody can tell what you're actually going to be showing in the video, it's not going to be a successful thumbnail for you. Okay, let me pull it back up here because I'm sure there's some questions in here too. And I want to make sure that I'm answering those. Okay. Oh, it looks like we've already answered a lot of the questions in here. Any questions about how to do that? Photoshop is a little bit more extensive, but I will tell you what, if you take a little bit of time to learn, or if you have somebody who is taking the time to design in there, you're going to get way better thumbnails than if you do it in Canva. Canva is a Band-Aid, in my opinion. I think that it's great for if you need to do something quick, if you're kind of strapped and you're kind of wearing multiple hats, I think it's a great option. However, I don't think it's the best option because there's a lot of limitations. Like you watched Levi do a lot of his designing, there's a lot of trial and error with it, and they move stuff around all of the time. It's kind of hard to get consistent results on Canva. I've done both. You know, I've done some in Canva. I've done some just to experiment with the AI tools, especially. I've done some, most of them get done in Photoshop. My entire team uses Photoshop because we outlawed Canva on our design team because I just felt like we weren't getting consistent results. And it kind of makes for a lazy designer as well. It's like you think that it's going to, you know, they have some templates and things on Canva, but that does not mean that that's a successful template either. I would rather be in control of all of the elements and know exactly, you know, what I'm going to come out with and exactly how to apply an effect to it rather than going with the easier solution, somewhat easier solution. It's just, you end up getting about the same results that you put into the actual effort of making the thumbnail. Let's see. Levi had to leave for a second. Any questions about, some of the stuff that I talked about? I will go over those 4 things again. If you guys want to take some notes on this, because I think this will really help you create better thumbnails. So the first one, is it crisp? Is everything really easy to see? Is anything pixelated? If anything is pixelated, then you need to probably go back to the drawing board. That's something that I find a lot on actual individual pictures of people. So if you're uploading a picture of yourself, maybe you are doing one of maybe the headshots, the post headshots. If that is unclear, if it's pixelated, go back to the drawing board. Do not use that. It's going to make your thumbnail look really tacky, really cheap. That's probably the number one thing that makes your video stand out. So you'll notice that some of our thumbnails, we've even used some like AI images of Levi because those are super clear, super crisp, and they give some great contrast. And that leads into the second one, contrast. Is there good color contrast? I mean, it's even great if you can kind of color coordinate with what you're wearing. A lot of times I do that with what Levi's wearing. I'll use colors that are, kind of playing off of what he's wearing as well as what's in the background. So is there good contrast? Can you see contrast between the background image and the actual text? Does the text contrast against itself with like a drop shadow or a stroke? You've got good contrast and it's going to be readable, then that's going to do a lot better than something that's kind of blending into the background. Is your messaging clear? Are the words that you're using on the thumbnail actually leading people to what they want to know? Does it make sense? It's okay to have something that is kind of a clickbaity title. It's not okay to have something that's vague, that it's like, not going to give people what they're actually looking for. It doesn't lead them into actually wanting to know more. Like, for instance, if you were to use, like maybe you had a $300,000 house and you had, and the title of that is like house with a question mark, that's way too vague, way too broad, right? It's not going to lead anybody to actually want to go watch that video. So are you being clear about your messaging when you're putting out the text? And then of course, concise is that fourth one. Is it 3 to 4 words max? Are you giving enough of that message, but you're not putting too much of the title in the actual thumbnail? Because we have definitely found that if you are too direct with what you're putting on your thumbnail and it matches too much of the exact text in the headline, it doesn't do as well for some reason. And so you want to have something that leads, but something that also gives the message in as concise a way as possible, because people have a short attention span. The thumbnail should be a teaser and not give everything. The headline can give people more information. The thumbnail is really just to grab people's attention. And with that, I hand it back off to you, Levi.
All right, good stuff. All right, let's jump into, of course, everybody calls right whenever I have the trainings, it's like, oh, it was good. It was good. I'm sure that was amazing. Let's see here. All right, let's get into some questions real quick. Hi, when you hooked up with your business partner, how soon did you have to add others to your team? I mean, probably 8 months in. I think 8 months in, we added our first buyer's agent. So you'll know whenever you or your partner gets overwhelmed, then you'll know it's time. You'll know it's time to do that. So let's see. Agent attraction training. That's interesting. He didn't tell me about that one. I'm gonna have to. I've known Mike for so long. He just takes me for granted these days now. He's just, he's like, Levi's got it under control. I don't need to teach him. Although I want to learn always. So interesting to see what he's doing. Ryan Pineda is awesome. Yeah, Ryan's really, really cool and got some good content. Hello from Austin. Shara. Oh, what's up, Shara? She was on our podcast yesterday. Gwyneth In The House. Let's see, living in Richmond. Is that British Columbia? Let's see. When I do living in city or life in city, the search volume is 38 to 40,000. If I do city real estate, the monthly search volume is 350,000. Should I brand my channel around that specifically? Yeah, I'd go for it. If it's Richmond real estate, or if that's the case, if that's what you mean, Richmond real estate, yeah, I would love to call my channel Dallas real estate, Dallas, Texas real estate. It just doesn't seem the search volume is that high in Dallas. for that in particular. So, that's what we talked about. Living in was the top search term for Dallas, even recently as I searched. So that's why we went with that name. I checked moving to, relocating to, and also I checked Dallas, Texas real estate, didn't have a high search volume. And so we just went with the most searched term on there. So let's see. All right. Living in Houston says, wow, I feel empowered. Like I can do a thumbnail. Awesome. And then maybe not. Yeah, as soon as I started hitting the snags, but that was a prime example of, hey, stuff happens. I mean, I haven't been in Canva for a while, so they changed up a few things. Apparently, like Chrissy said, it actually, whenever I used to do things, it wasn't that glitchy for me back in the past. So maybe with all the new updates, I know Canva is valued at, I don't know, billions of dollars now, which is funny because that's like a 26-year-old girl runs that thing, and I know they've gotten a lot of money recently and things like that, probably with their valuations. And I don't know, every time they upgrade stuff, it starts breaking. But I mean, that's the thing, is that's going to happen. So if you just play around with it, and she says, hit the back button. I know for some reason I couldn't find the back button. I was looking like on the main screen, it was up there to the left. And again, but I know where to look now. I just haven't been in there in a little while. Let's see. All right. Well, editors that do my thumbnails are not as good as you, Chrissy. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? If you're having any trouble with your design, all you got to do is reach out to Gabe. Gabe is our head of design, and he is the master of branding for your channel. So what I would do is just tag him in a comment on Coordinate. And actually we're coming out with a brand book for everybody in the editing squad as well. So if you want to kind of switch up, because we've been starting to notice some changes on the thumbnail side, some updates on thumbnails as far as the YouTube algorithm goes, and we are starting to implement those changes. So we are going to be probably sending that out towards the end of next week, and we're going to help you choose some better text, help you come up with better ways to maybe pose for some of these shots, because that was a shot that I was able to pull from the actual video, and we try to do that for all of our vlogs. But sometimes if we can't get a good shot, we have to go with the post headshot. So I would reach out to Gabe, and together you guys can come up with a branding plan, because we want to make sure that those thumbnails look really, really good for you.
Yeah, she says, how do I get the editing team to do that? One of the easiest things you can do now, the thing is that if you're always moving in a vlog, it's hard sometimes to capture a screen grab. So you could always, if you're in like a certain area of town or something, you can always just pause. Like even if it's between you say something or before you say something, just pause and hold the camera or hold it out, or, with whatever you want behind you. You could make a funny face, just do like that while the video is rolling. And just, even if you froze like that for 1 or 2 seconds, that's going to give an editor a very, very clear shot to be able to pause, screen grab from there. Because otherwise, if you're walking around like this the whole time, they're going to have to find some spot where they pause you, and just there could be a slight bit of motion, anything like that. So if you want thumbnails that are pulled from inside the vlog, which we've been doing that for quite some time now, last year and a half, or year and a half or so, 2 years. We've always pulled screenshots, usually on the vlogs, and therefore working on that. So just be mindful of that when you're out and about. Even if you're going to record like your first clip, if you're downtown in a historic area or in front of a beautiful lake or something, just pull it out, hold that camera up, and just cheese, and then you could even stop, and you could even just record that for 2 or 3 seconds, stop, and then boom, and then start your next clip. Or sometimes I'll hit record and I'll say, here's a thumbnail. So I tell the editor, so as soon as they start editing, that's the first clip they see is like, hey, here's a thumbnail, and then they're like, oh, okay, screenshot, boom. So that would be an easy way to do that, is whenever you're in an ideal location that you would like to be featured on the thumbnail, just record and say, hey, editor, and if you know their name, then you could say, hey, John, here's a thumbnail, and just do that and pause. And if you're in a public place, people really wonder what you're doing, but it's okay. Yeah, but otherwise,
yeah.
you'll be good.
Yeah, and no worries. And like I said, and I think, is that Patricia? I think that's Patricia. Yeah, Gabe is so quick to make those renditions for you. And so he'll send you probably 4 or 5 versions of a thumbnail style. And so you can choose a new style to go with. So that's no problem. Just reach out to him and he'll get right back to you.
Okay. Question for you. Troy.
Yes. So yes, I use Adobe 365 Suite, and that's like a monthly subscription that I have. I am not 100% sure on the free version. I've actually never had the free version. I've always paid. I had the OG Photoshop. I think the earliest version I got, I think, was Photoshop 2. I think it's Photoshop 2 was the first one that I got, but I've always paid for it. So I'm not 100% sure what the free version can do. I'm sure it can do quite a bit. I mean, the setup is going to probably be very similar. I'm sure there's some advanced features that are not included. So you could download it, see how it goes. I will say that if you wanted to get Photoshop, you could pay for it for a couple of months just at the price that it's at. And then during Black Friday week, they cut the price by 50 or 60% for a yearly subscription. So it's super cheap. So you could get it for a month or 2. I think they have a 14-day free trial that you can do. I do know that. So you could try the free trial, see what you can do with all of those features, and maybe pay for it for a month or 2 and then just upgrade using like the 50 or 60% off. So.
Yep. How do you check the search volume? We do that on TubeBuddy. Mm-hmm. So check the description below of this video if you're on YouTube, and you'll see the link to TubeBuddy, and we have a discount code in there for you as well. Mm-hmm. And if you pay for the year up front and use our discount code, it's going to knock that price down significantly. And I would get the Legend version. All right, Jonathan says, okay, follow-up question. I think that's follow-up. I hope he's not saying F you.
That was my initial knee-jerk reaction too, but I think it's follow-up.
Yeah, all right. That was a terrible answer before. Yeah, let's see. Tons of competition for that, and none of the social handles URLs are available. What would you recommend? I mean, you could play around with it and see if you could find a handle if you really wanted to match. I mean, you could say Richmond Real Estate with Jonathan. Richmond Real Estate with Jonathan Lerner. It's kind of like you already have living in Richmond. I think you could say Dallas or Richmond Real Estate. I was going to say Dallas, but Richmond Real Estate with Jonathan Lerner. The thing is that I'm going to come back to this. I'm just really developing a new theory that I'm not sure the channel name really matters. I mean, sorry, but initially I think that's what, now we rank. If people search living in Dallas, Texas, our channel's going to pop up. So don't get me wrong. The thing is that if you build up enough keyword recognition around a search term like that, I do believe it will matter, but it's probably going to take a year to do that. But I see plenty of real estate channels that are just real estate agents' names, and they have, tons of views. Some of them focus on a national audience, so they get tons of views. I mean, I see people come out of the gate brand new. It's really comes, and I've had discussions with YouTube employees as well, direct conversations, and they always tell me that individual video lives on YouTube. So that's what's going to get you found first. Now, we do think about the psychology of people, and if they go to your channel and it's just your name, then they're trying to get adapted to a personality versus, it doesn't necessarily speak to them as informational type of channel or, something that's going to be value driven. So I could go both ways, but the thing is that it really comes down to creating the best content you can and getting that found through search, and then also working on, getting that recommended and having YouTube pick it up as well. But otherwise, I mean, search just continually works well for us, and we turn over a lot of volume, from that. So I would try it. You could try Richmond Real Estate with Jonathan Lerner maybe and see how that works. But again, I think it's really going to come down to your videos. But I would stick to something. If you've already put in videos out there with living in Richmond, then you just got to be better than everybody else. That's what it comes down to. You got to be better.
Well, and you could put something like official or something at the end of it too. I mean, that's an easy go-to for me. If you think that if you really like living in Richmond, you just want to add one more thing to it to just get the handle with the key. Because I think the most important part is just having the key phrase, like your main short tail key phrase, and that's your city and your state.
Yeah.
So something like that would be an easy add.
The handle, if they're on YouTube and the handle is clickable, so it doesn't really matter. I just don't know if the handles are a big deal right now for people typing that in and searching for very specific channels. I don't think they're putting in handles and, saying, hey, let me put in the handle living in Richmond, see what that pulls up. They're still sticking to keywords. They might use hashtags before they use handles if they were to search something. So
yeah, it's really more for ranking purposes for any, it's going to add one more little chip into the pot for your SEO. I mean, it's not going to be a huge impact at the end of the day, as long as your videos are optimized for the key phrases. So I would say if you wanted to add a word or something at the end of it, that would be an easy way to throw the key phrase in, plus, get something that's just related to your channel name. So I think consistency is the most important.
Yep. Does your editing service create static map graphics, or is there an app?
Not 100% sure what that question means. Are you talking about just like sharing like map? I think I know what you're saying. Okay. Are you talking about like when you're talking about like the proximity of something to something else? We can do that for you. You will want to just, especially if you're coming in at the very beginning, if that's something you want consistently on your videos, when you're saying, this is because sometimes we'll just put a text graphic. Some people prefer just to do like a text graphic rather than taking that screen away. I would just talk to your editor about that and they can implement that as like a standing rule for each one of your videos. But yeah, we can do that for sure.
Yep. That's what he's talking about. He said, so
perfect.
Cool. All right, great. Well, thank you all for joining us today. That's all we have on questions so far. So I've got to jump anyways. I've got a hard stop. Got to jump on the next thing. So we will see you next week. Hit us up in the Facebook group if you need anything in the meantime. Make sure you check out passiveprospecting.com and get the book, a copy of the book, Passive Prospecting, of course, out in Amazon right now. And we are almost at, I haven't checked recently, but we were at almost 100 reviews on Amazon, which is awesome. So if you have gotten the book and you haven't left a review on Amazon yet, that would be greatly appreciated. We would really appreciate your support on that. And we're still ranked up there. We're still ranked in top 30 in 2 different categories, which I would say that's pretty big deal for a couple of no-namers, right? A couple of no-namers talking about YouTube. And I mean, we did some good promotion, but we definitely did not have like, the full on PR agency behind us or anything like that. But just from this audience and the people we know, to get up to 100 reviews and to sell thousands of copies already, which I was informed by the publisher that 95% of nonfiction books don't even sell 1,000 copies. And I think we're close to over 3,000 now, which is pretty cool. But only 100 reviews. We need some more reviews,
Yep.
But all good. Thank you all so much. We will see you next week.
Bye.